lot to understand and learn in Parshas Lecha. I'm just going to put this marker over here on this page. The Parsha begins. Let's begin at the beginning of the Parsha. It says, Vayom Hashem al Avram Lech lecha, to go. How old was Avram at this time? Avram was 75 years old. There's different opinions. When Avram traveled, the first time to Israel, he might have been 70 for the Brit Ben Absarim, then he came back at 75. It records last week that his father died. His father lived long enough to see, I think, Yaakov being born and things of that nature. So he really didn't die last week. His death is recorded as a way of saying that Abraham was able to go to Israel and leave his father, and people wouldn't criticize him. Why wouldn't you keep with Avayim? Why don't you respect your father? Stay with your father. So it records in the Torah that his father had died. There's a sefer called Beit Yisrael. Beit Yisrael is a sefer written by the Rabbi. In Europe, near Warsaw, was a small town called Gur, Ger or Gur. And the Hasidic dynasty, the Rabbi, came from that town. And they're buried there. The Chidushi Arim is buried there. I think the Sfas Emes is buried there. The Beit Yisrael made it to Israel. And Ger is quite large in the Geula Meisha Orim area. And he was a brilliant man. He was so brilliant that if you had a conversation with him and you didn't see him for 20 years, the minute he saw you, he would continue the conversation he had with you 20 years ago. He remembered exactly to the T. That's how brilliant he was. So he brings down a story from Rav Nochem of Chernobyl. Now Chernobyl, Chernobyl is a town in Russia. What happened in Chernobyl? Well, there was a nuclear accident. So Chernobyl is a town that nobody lives in. It's empty because of radiation. But Reb Nochem of Chernobyl, many years ago, 100 years ago, maybe more, he was the Hasidic Rebbe of that town. So the Ger Rebbe brings down a story that one day Reb Nochem of Chernobyl was arrested and he was thrown in jail. Trumped up charges, not real charges, he was just thrown in jail. And the Ger Rebbe says that he had Gilui Eliyahu. Reb Nochem Chernobyl could talk to Eliyahu Hanavi. So Eliyahu Hanavi came to visit him in the jail. So he asked Eliyahu Hanavi, why am I in jail? Why am I here? I didn't do any avedot. I'm a good person. These charges are all fake. Why am I here? So Eliyahu Hanavi said to him, don't worry. Tomorrow you're going to be free. Okay, got it. Tomorrow I'm going to be free. But why am I here? Why did Hashem put me here? So he said a fascinating thing to him. He said to him that you very much do the mitzvah of Pidyon Shavuyim. If anybody's in jail, it's your mission to get him out of jail. And you're very good at it. But I wanted you to understand what it feels like to be in jail. Because if you can experience it firsthand, you'll do the mitzvah even stronger, even better. So now that you're in jail and you know how it feels, I'm confident that in the future you'll do it even better. That's what Eliyahu Hanavi said to him. That's what Hashem wanted to teach you. He says, where do we see this from? We see this from Avraham Avinu. Hashem made Avraham Avinu traveling. He was always traveling. He was traveling from Ur Kasdim to Haran, from Haran to Canaan, from Canaan down to Mitzrayim, from Mitzrayim back up. He's traveling. What was Avraham's strength? He was the Av HaChesed. He was the kindness. What did he do? He prepared places to eat, drink, food, water. He prepared. He had all these hotels. So Hashem said to Avraham Avinu, how do you know what a guest needs? When you make a hotel, how do you know what a guest needs? How do you know how many pillows he needs? What kind of a blanket? What kind of a mattress? What kind of food? How do you know? There's only one way you know. If you're a guest in enough places, you'll know what a guest needs. So Hashem made Avraham travel to all these different places. So Avraham understood, wow, this place was horrible. I know I have to fix that. This place had no running water. Put it on my checklist. Make sure guests have running water. This place, there were no clean towels. Important. Guests should have clean towels. He learned from every place he stayed what was good and what was missing. So when he made his whole section of hotels and guest houses, now it was perfect. Every guest came in and felt extremely comfortable. But how did Avram learn this? from traveling from place to place. Hashem making him travel, he learned the message. So the Beit Yisrael, what?
Wasn't Abraham always in the desert? So
No,
Abraham
was not in the desert. He lived in Beersheba for a while, he lived in Hebron for a while, he lived in Shechem. He traveled the countryside. He was down in Egypt for 6 months. That wasn't desert. You know, he was in wherever the capital of Egypt was at that time, maybe Thebes or whatever it was. So, and Lot was in Sodom, and that before it was destroyed, Sodom was a very rich, green, lush, fertile place. So Avraham Avinu was in some very nice places, and he probably was in some very horrible places. So for a while, he had no money. When he came back, he was quite wealthy. On the way down, he didn't have money to pay. So he understood how to set up a guest house. He knew exactly what was necessary. How did he know that? From experience. So the Beit Yisrael says that the Eliyahu Navi said to Reb Nachum of Chernobyl, now you understand how horrible it is to be arrested for no good reason. So now when you hear the next time someone is arrested for no good reason, you're not even going to wait 5 minutes. You're going to go right away to help him. Because he experienced it firsthand. Okay? So that's what he learned from that. Very, very fascinating. Okay. Avram is traveling. He's traveling down. Next week we're going to talk a little bit about Lot. Because Lot is with him. Now, Lot seems to be a good guy. Where would you put Lot in the category? A good guy is a number 10, and a bad guy is a number 1. Where would you put Lot?
7.
Okay, 7, 8. He seems to be a fairly good guy.
In between.
Right, in between. Eventually, things are going to change. Right? When Lot is with Avraham in the beginning, he does whatever Avraham says. He's really very excited to be with Avraham. He's growing, he's learning, and he becomes a Baal Chesed. He learns about doing kindness and goodness. He's a very good guy. When does Lot begin to change? When do we have in the Chumash some stories where we see that Lot's behavior begins to change? Do you know when that is?
When you go to Sodom?
Well, he didn't go to Sodom yet. It changed before he went to Sodom. When did it begin to change? When did he begin to change? When did Lot change a little bit? The answer is when they came back from Egypt. Right? When they went down to Egypt, they had no money. When they came out of Egypt, what were they now?
Wealthy.
Very wealthy. All of a sudden, Lot has sheep, cattle, shepherds. He starts letting them graze in other people's fields. When someone says to him, what are you doing? He says, oh, this will belong to Avraham anyway. He says, yeah, but it doesn't belong to Avraham yet. And who says you're going to get it? Well, Avraham has no children. Where's it going to go? It's going to come to me. His behavior changes. His attitude changes. When Avraham says, listen, we can't be together anymore, where does he go to? He goes to Sodom. Of all the places, why would you go to Sodom? It's like one of the worst places to go to. So we see there was a change. But Avraham and Lot had a close relationship. We know this because Avraham saved Lot. Lot was taken captive. And Avraham risked his life to save him. We're going to learn more next week when we go into it. But Lot did something that Avraham owed him a debt of gratitude. They're going down to Egypt. Avraham says to Sarah, when they ask about you, who you are, tell everybody you're my sister. Okay? And Sarah said, no problem. Who else was there? Lot. What did Lot say? They must have asked him, who's that girl? And now he could say, she's my sister also, because Sarah was his sister. But he also said, yeah, we're all brothers and sisters. That means he protected Avraham. And Avraham owed him a debt of gratitude. So when Lot is taken captive between the 4 kings and the 5 kings, and he gets information that Lot is now in the hands of Sodom, the kings, so Avraham organizes his army, and he goes after to save Lot. Because he owed him a debt. Lot was a good person for that amount of time. Okay.
Who brings that? Which flourish?
You'll see next week in Rashi. Rashi talks about this. We're going to see that when they save Lot, from Sodom being destroyed, Rashi asks, why did they save him? And Rashi says, Bizchut Avraham is one, and the other Rashi says is his own zchut, because he kept the secret. You'll see Rashi says it from the Midrashim. Okay, now, it says, Vayishma Avram ki nishba achiv. Avram heard that his brother was taken captive. So he organizes his men. How many men did he have? 318 men. And he organizes his 318 men, and he's going to fight the 4 kings. Now, they were pretty strong kings. One of them was Nimrod. According to Rashi, there wasn't even 318 men. How many men were there? Just one. Eliezer. Because if you count up the numerical value of Eliezer, the gematria, what does it equal? 318. So, it says, Vayorek es chanicho v'lidei beso. So, Rashi says, who did they take? What did they take? So it says that it was Eliezer. Rabbeinu Amru, Eliezer levado hoya. Avram only took Eliezer. V'hu minyan gematria shel shemo. 318 is the amount of Eliezer's name. Now, Rashi generally goes through the simple approach. Very rarely does he go through complicated approaches. Why didn't Rashi learn 318 means 318 men? Is it so hard to imagine that Avram had 318 people working for him? Why not? It's possible. So some of the Meforshim say, very interesting, they say that Avram started out with 318 men. But as you get closer to battle, what does the Torah say? What kind of a speech do you have to give? You have to say to the guys, hey, if anybody got engaged and didn't get married, you can go home. Okay. Anybody built a house and didn't live in it, enjoy your day. Anybody planted a field, didn't have a chance to harvest it, adios. Have a good time. Then it says, anybody who's afraid, anybody who thinks maybe they didn't do enough mitzvos, they did some averos, they're afraid, they can go home also. So they say that what happened at the end, by the time Avram gave this little speech from his 318 men, how many people were left? 1, Eliezer. That was it. Avram was left with Eliezer. The Gemara. There's a Gemara in the Dorim. Very interesting Gemara. Unusual Gemara, because Gemaras are something that's hard to understand. Omar Rabba Vu, Omar Rabba Lozor. Mibnei ma nenash Avram Avinu. Why was Avram Avinu ultimately punished? V'nishtabdu bonav Mitzrayim, and his children were slaves in Egypt 210 years. That's what Gemara says. Now, the Gemara gives a lot of answers. But one of the answers the Gemara says is, because he used Talmidei Chachamim for his own personal use. Because it says he gathered 318 men to fight. That means they were learning Torah. He was running a kollel. He was running the yeshiva. He had to go free his brother-in-law, Lot. What should he have done with those 218 men? He should have left them alone. He took him out of the yeshiva to fight. That's what the Gemara says. So the Gemara says, because of what happened, that's why Avraham Avinu paid a price that his children were in Mitzrayim for that many years, 210 years. So it's very, very interesting how they got to that point and what that point meant. Now, let's understand something else. In life, there's something called depression. A person is depressed, right? This is getting a lot of attention lately, by the way. I don't know if you know this, but there have been a lot of articles and schools have been in-serviced. Seems like a lot of children today, kids, teenagers especially, are fighting depression. Now that's unusual. Why are people depressed? Maybe because they want more out of life than they're getting, or they expected life to be easier than it is. A lot of different reasons. People get depressed. So the word yiush, which means to be depressed or to give up hope, despondent. You know what the numerical value of the word yiush is? 317. So Avram said, I'm not depressed. I'm 318. I'm one above. That means a person who's depressed is 317. I'm 318. Where did the first time, where did we find that Eliezer is used to reflect someone who is not depressed? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu named his son Eliezer, 318. Why did he name his son Eliezer? What happened in Moshe Rabbeinu's life?
Too much depressed.
No.
Snake was supposed to swallow him up.
That's true. But why did he name Eliezer? Who wanted to kill him and
Paro,
failed?
Paro.
Paro. Okay? Right? Key, it says, Elokei ovi be'ezri v'hatzileni mecher Paro. Listen to this. Moshe Rabbeinu is tied up. His neck is on the block. The executioner is there with a sword, ready to chop off his head, and Paro is saying, do it! Would you have sold this guy a life insurance policy?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think that if we would have taken bets, Trump had a better chance of winning than he did. That's the new saying now. If it's a long shot, then you can maybe become like Trump. Hillary Clinton's still trying to figure out why she lost. So is the rest of the world. But and she's blaming everybody, the FBI, this person, that person. Okay. At any rate, you would never have sold this guy life insurance. What happened? We know what happened. The sword went down, his neck turned to marble, the sword probably hit the marble and killed the executioner, and Moshe ran away. So Moshe says, whoa, there was an opportunity to be depressed, and I beat it. So he called his son Eliezer, 318, not 317. Avraham and Sarah definitely had a reason to be depressed. Let me explain to you why. We talked about this last week a little bit. Last week we said everybody was having children when they were 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old. Noah didn't have any children until he was 500 years old. So Noah should have said, what's going on over here? I'm the Ish Tzaddik, I'm the good guy, I'm the only guy in the whole world who's going to be saved, and I can't have children? So Hashem says, don't complain. If you had children when you were young, you know what would have happened to your children when the flood came? They would have died. Because they would have gotten involved with everybody else, and your children, your grandchildren, it would have destroyed you because you would never have saved them all. So I kept you from having children till the very end so you could save your children. Okay? So not everything is as simple as it seems. Sarah and Avraham were really in rough shape. The Gemara says that Sarah didn't even have a womb. She couldn't even have children. It's not that she was having problems having children. Even if she became pregnant, she had no place to have to carry the child. And Avraham could not have children. So why did this happen this way? So the Medrash says to teach us that to a Jew, nothing is impossible. Avraham and Sarah are teaching us an important lesson. Hashem promises we're going to have children. No matter how difficult it is, no matter how crazy it is, no matter how much it doesn't make sense, we're going to have children. Nothing is impossible. And that was important. And Avraham and Sarah had to have that belief. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but we're going to see much more detail, much more complicated when we go into this in greater detail. Okay. When the king of Sodom offered Avraham, I'll make you a deal. Give me back the people, and you take all the money. What was Avraham's answer? No, thank you. Keep your money. He took Paro's money, because Paro's money was kosher money.
Why?
Because Paro, however he made his money, he didn't rob it, didn't steal it. The people of Sodom, the money wasn't kosher. They were cruel, they were inhuman. So Avraham didn't want anything to do with the money. He gave back the people also. That might have been a mistake. Maybe you should have taken the people and taught them a little bit more to fear Hashem. So that was a mistake. So the Torah says that because he said, I'm not going to take a string or a shoelace, Hashem gave him two mitzvahs. What mitzvahs did he give him? Tefillin, and some people say tzitzit. Some people say the string from the chalitza shoe. So it's interesting. That means Avram says, when a person thinks they're in charge, right? They think they're in charge. So which hand do they use? Their right hand. The right hand is, I'm in charge, they raise their right hand. Which hand is the stronger hand? The right hand. The left hand is weaker.
Yeah, all depends.
Now, tefillin, which hand do you put it on?
Left.
The left hand. And when you tie your shoes, you put on your right shoe and your left shoe. Which shoe do you tie first?
Left.
Left. So Avram said we got two mitzvahs. Both mitzvahs involve the left. You know why? To teach us Hashem's in charge, we're not in charge. So it's very interesting that of the two mitzvahs that are there, that the ones that are in charge, it shows that who's in charge? Hashem's in charge. Now, let me tell you a story. There's a few stories I want to tell you, then I'm going to go into something very complicated, and I want you to be able to follow very closely. Listen to the story. First story. It says that Avram fought the king of Sodom, against the four kings at night. And by the time the night was halfway through, he defeated them, and Hashem says, don't worry, the rest of the night we'll use in Mitzrayim. And that's why Makat Bechorot began at midnight, Chatzi HaLayla. The first half of the night Avram used, but that whole night would one day save the Jewish people, came the second half. Okay. There was a guy, I didn't do a Google search on this, Rabbi Kamenetsky brings down the story. His name was Charlie Boswell. Do you know Charlie Boswell? No. Well, don't feel bad, I didn't know who he was either. He was a great athlete. And he became blind during World War II, rescuing a good friend of his from a tank that was under fire. Comes back after World War II, back to the United States, and he was an athlete. Well, he can't play baseball, he couldn't play basketball, so he took up golf. Now that's unusual. But I guess if someone says to you, go 90 degrees this way or that way, he played golf.
Blind.
And there was a national blind golf sport, and they ran championships every year. And this Charlie Boswell was so good that he won the award for the National Blind Golf Championship 13 times.
Wow.
Okay? When one time at the end, when he won the award, the person who gave him the trophy was a famous golfer named Ben Hogan. Now, do you know any golfers? I grew up with Arnold Palmer. There's, I think, Jack Nicholson. There are famous golfers.
Jack Nicholson, actor, no?
Right?
He's a movie.
There's a Jack Nicholson that's a movie, right? But there was a golfer, and there was other golfers. There are famous golfers.
Tiger Woods?
What? Tiger Woods. Okay? So let's say Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is a professional golfer, right? Okay, maybe he's not on his game right now, but when he was at the top of his game, he was one of the best.
Yeah.
So this Ben Hogan was the same. So Charlie says to Ben Hogan, he says, maybe you and I should have a game of golf. I won the championship, and you're a professional golfer. So Ben Hogan says to him, sure, but I don't think it would be fair. He says, you're right. Let's make it interesting. $1,000 a hole. That means 18 holes of golf. Yeah. If I win, you pay me $1,000. If you win, you get $1,000. So Ben Hogan says, what are you talking about? I'm a professional golfer. You're blind. If I pay you $1,000 a hole, it's like I'm stealing money from you. I can't play you. He says, what, you're afraid? He says, I'm not afraid. It's just not fair. So you are afraid. He says, listen, I'm not afraid. I'll play you anytime, any place. Name it. He says, no problem. Tonight, 10 o'clock.
Nice.
He's blind.
He's blind! Because the golf courses didn't have lights. So now at 10 o'clock at night, Ben Hogan will be playing in the total dark. And he's not used to that. But Charlie was a blind golfer. So he said to him, anytime, any place. There's no problem. Tonight, 10 o'clock.
You get him.
They played?
It doesn't say here if they played or not. It doesn't say what happened.
You killed him right there.
But you can see that, it was a brilliant answer. It was a brilliant thought. It's called a level playing field. He created a level playing field. There's another story going around. The story was written by Rabbi Zilberstein in, I think, Ma'arabu Ma'asecha. He wrote a new sefer out, and Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss was saying this in one of his lectures, a story, very interesting story. Listen to this story, fascinating story. He says there was a lady who was making a wedding, and she needed cash, so she went to the bank and took out $30,000 cash. Because she had to pay the caterer, she had to pay the musician, the band, the photographer, whatever it is, she needed cash. Not everybody pays by check, they pay by cash. And she put the money in her purse, she came out, walked out of the bank, and I guess she was going home, she either took a taxi or whatever it was. Somehow she misplaced her purse. Like, it's just bizarre. She misplaced her purse. Of course, by the time she comes home, she realizes she left her purse somewhere, she doesn't remember where. Her husband is furious. There's $30,000 of cash in that purse. What do you think's going to happen? Anyway, they're beside themselves. 2 days later, they get a phone call. And a man says, are you Mrs. So-and-so? She says, yes. She says, I found your purse. I opened it up. Your wallet was inside, and I saw your driver's license. I looked up your name in the phone book. I found your purse. I'd like to return it. So she said, sure, that would be great. Of course, she figured for sure, when she gets that purse, the money's going to be gone. $30,000 in there. She gets her purse back. She opens it up. All $30,000 is there.
Wow.
So she says to the guy, she says, did you know that there was $30,000 in my purse? He says, yeah, I saw that. You're really one of the few honest people I've ever met. I'd like to give you a reward. I'd like to give you something as a reward. He said to her that he's Christian. When he was growing up, his parents would talk about that the best thing in the world was to get a blessing from an Orthodox Jew. Because an Orthodox Jew is close to God, and if they give you a blessing, that blessing is 100%. So he said, I see you're an Orthodox Jew. I don't want money. What I want from you is a blessing. What I want from you is a blessing. And she's taken aback, and she says, okay. And she gives him a blessing. She gives him a blessing. You should live well, and you should be successful, you should have a long life, and you should have a good job, and you should have nachas from your family, from your children. She gives him a beautiful blessing. And the guy says, thank you very much, amen, and he's happy, he goes on his way. On his way home, he starts feeling in his stomach queasy. He starts feeling like it's an upset stomach. By the time he gets to his house, he gets out of the car, he throws up everywhere. His temperature is like 102 degrees. Comes into the house, he's freezing, he's shivering, he's sick, he's white as a ghost. And his wife calls the doctor. The doctor has to come over to the house. And he's saying to himself, I don't get it. She's an Orthodox Jew. She just gave me a blessing. I've never been sick in my life, and all of a sudden I'm so sick. Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, the doctor comes over, says you have a stomach virus, you have the flu, and you're going to have to stay in bed. Your temperature's 102, 103, you have to take medicine. You're going to have to stay in bed for the next few days. And the guy says, I can't stay in bed. I've never missed a day of work in my life. I pride myself by my work ethic. Everybody looks to me, here's the guy who's there on time and never misses and is always there, and now you're telling me, I got to miss work. And he's so upset because, why? I just got this blessing from this Jew. It doesn't make any sense. My parents. Anyway, he had to stay home.
9/11.
The next day was 9/11, and he worked at Cantor Fitzgerald, which everybody in Cantor Fitzgerald died because they were on top of where the planes hit. And Rabbi Zilberstein brings down the story that when he realized what happened on 9/11, he was stayed because he stayed home. He says, now I understand the power of a Jewish blessing. That's the story. That's the story that he gives. It's an amazing, amazing story. It's an amazing story that Rabbi Zilberstein brings down as to the power of a Jewish blessing. That kept him home. When had he gone, it would have been a horrible, horrible situation.
Does it say everything, details, the names, and?
I don't know. He didn't give those details. Rabbi Krohn usually gives the names and details, although he changes the names in the story, so you can't tell. But whatever it is, but he changes that. Okay. The next thing what I'm going to tell you is a little bit complicated, so I want you to focus very well. Let's see what we have. We have time for this. Listen to this very carefully. It says, the Torah says as follows. At the end of Parshas Lech, Avraham Avinu goes through a circumcision. He's 99 years old. Now it's interesting that even though Avraham kept the entire Torah, They say he kept Shabbos, he kept Yom Tov, he kept the entire Torah.
Pesach.
Pesach, he never did circumcision until Hashem told him. Because he could have kept Pesach, and when Hashem told him to keep Pesach, he would have done it the same next year. But circumcision is a type of a mitzvah, you only get one chance to do it. It's one time. So he didn't do it until Hashem told him, until it was a real mitzvah. As much as he understood it, he never did it. Anyway, he's recuperating from his circumcision, and it says, Vayomer Elokim el Avraham. Hashem says to Avraham, Sarai ishtacha, your wife Sarai, lo sikra shemo Sarai. She's no longer going to be called Sarai. Ki Sarah shemo. Her name is going to become Sarah. Okay. First thing we see from here, that if a person is having difficulty with something, she couldn't have children. One of the approaches people use is change your name. If you change your name, you change your mazel. Okay? So we see that Hashem said to Avraham, your name was Avram, now it's going to be Avraham. Sarai, now the name is going to be Sarah. Okay. Ubeirachti osa, I'm going to bless her. Hashem says to Avram, I'm going to bless her. V'gam nosati mimenu lecha ben, and you're going to have a child, a son with her. Ubeirachtia v'hoisa legoyim malchei ami mimenu yiyu. So now, the next thing is Avram's reaction to that. Vayipol Avraham al ponov, he falls down on his face, as if he's bowing to Hashem. Vayitzchak. What does the word Vayitzchak mean?
Laughs.
He laughs. Vayomer belibo, he says to himself, Halabemei shonim mivole, can I have a child when I'm 100 years old? And my wife is 90 years old? How's that going to be? Vayomer Avram el Elokim. Avram says to Hashem, you know what? It's okay. Don't promise me something. Lu Yishmael. Let Yishmael be around. And Hashem says to him, no. Vayomer Elokim. No, your wife Sarah is going to have a child, and you're going to call him Yitzchak, etc., etc., etc. Now, does Hashem get angry at Avraham for laughing?
No.
No. Does Hashem say to Avraham, why did you laugh? Where's your emunah? Where's your bitachon? Nothing. Okay? Nothing. We skip ahead to next week. This week coming up, and Avraham has guests. A bunch of angels coming by to visit. 3 angels. And they're eating food, and they're under the tree, and one of them says, where is Sarah? And Sarah's in the tent. And they say, you know what, next year when we come back to visit you, you're going to have a son. And what does it say? She hears. And Avram and Sarah are old. Sarah stopped having her cycles. Sarah is laughing, and she says, after I'm so old, I'm going to have a child, and my husband is so old? Well, Hashem jumps down Avram's throat. Hashem al Avram, why is Sarah laughing? Does she not believe? Why is she saying she's old? Can I not do things? Is it impossible? I'll be back next year, and you'll see L'Sarah ben. So, both of them got the news. Both of them laughed. And yet one got yelled at and one didn't. Okay. So Rashi brings down from the Targum Onkelos, very interesting. Rashi says that when it says by Avraham and he laughed, Rashi, the Targum translates Yitzchak to the word chadati. Chadati means happy. He smiled. So it says that when Avram Avinu laughed, let me tell you what the Targum says. When Nofal Avram al Pohi, Avram fell on his face. V'chadi, he smiled. We say by Sheva Brocho, Ditza, Chedva. Chedva means to smile, to be happy. So when it says here by Avram, and he laughed, the Targum says, and he smiled. By Sarah, when it says, and she laughed, the Targum translates it, and he says a different word over there. There, the Targum says, the chaikas. Chaikas means mockery. Ha! How could that happen? like
The doubt.
doubt. So the Targum says, I hear the problem. Why is Hashem so angry at Sarah, not at Avraham? The laugh was different. The laugh was different. Okay. The next thing I'm going to tell you is going to shock you. You got to listen to the next thing. You're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. The Meshech Chochmah. The Meshech Chochmah is a pirush on Chumash, but he really wrote on the Rambam. That's what he wrote. He wrote a sefer on the Rambam. And Reb Meir Simcha Devinsk, the Meshech Chochmah. Very difficult sefer, a Kabbalistic sefer in many ways. He says, based on the Rambam, that the Rambam wrote at the beginning of the Rambam in his introduction. Listen to this. If the Rambam, if Hashem comes to you tonight in a dream, and Hashem says to you, tomorrow is the Powerball. Pick number 7, 12, 15, 18, 25, 30. And you're going to win $150 million. Hashem comes to you. And not fake, real. God comes to you and tells you this. And you buy the Powerball ticket with those numbers. Are you guaranteed to win?
Yes.
The Rambam says, no. There's a good chance it won't happen. Why? Why, you ask? The Rambam says, because from when Hashem told you till the next morning, maybe you didn't say a bracha with the right kavanah, maybe you overslept, maybe you didn't have enough emunah bitachon, maybe you thought about lashon hara, maybe you even said something to your wife that was lashon hara. You could have done an aveira. And all of a sudden, your circumstances change. And he brings down sources for this. Hashem promised Yaakov, I will protect you, I'll bring you back, I'm going to take care of you. When Yaakov came back and met Esau, what did he do? He was afraid. So they say, why were you afraid? Hashem gave you assurances. So what did Yaakov say? Kotonti mikol hachasadim. I'm diminished. Hashem did so many wonderful things for me, I might have no more schusim left. But Hashem promised you. Means nothing. Hashem promised you, Hashem could take it away. Why? Because you never know what mistakes you might have made. Then the Rambam says something fascinating. The Rambam says, but if Hashem tells the same message to a Navi, and the Navi tells it to you, it has to come true 100%. Mm-hmm. Why? Because if it doesn't come true, you're going to say he's a Navi Sheker. He's a false Navi. Now Hashem is stuck. Hashem has to deliver it. So Hashem said to Avraham, you're going to have a child. Avraham smiles. But you know what Avraham knows? It might happen, it might not happen. Because I only heard it from Hashem. What does Avraham do? He has a discussion with the angels. He tells Sarah. When Avraham tells Sarah, will it come true now? It has to, because Avraham is what? A Navi, it has to come true. And Sarah laughs, now she's in trouble. For Avraham to laugh, he has a right to laugh. He only heard it from Hashem. It may happen, it may not happen. But Sarah didn't hear it from Hashem. Sarah heard it from a Navi. If Sarah heard it from a Navi, it has to come true. Yes?
But when you hear something from God, isn't it more powerful and realistic?
And the Rambam says no. It's an amazing thing, the Rambam. It's an amazing Rambam. The Rambam says, when you hear it from Hashem, it means at that moment it could happen. But by tomorrow you could mess up. But if a Navi says it to you, Hashem is forced to do it. Otherwise you'll think the Navi is false. It's an interesting dilemma. He says, Yitzchak davened for a child, lenochach ishto. So Rashi says, Yitzchak davened for Rivka. Rivka should have a baby. So they all ask, why are you davening for Rivka? How many children did Yitzchak have at that time? 0. Daven for yourself? He said, I don't have to daven for myself. My father told me I'd have a child. My father's a Navi. I'm not worried about myself. I'm going to have children. But she may or may not have children. So I'm davening for her. I'm going to have a child. With her or another woman, I'm going to have a child. My father told me he's a Navi. But she had no nevuah. So therefore she had to daven for her. Pinchas. Hashem says to Pinchas, because of what you did, I'm going to give you my Brit Shalom. Who did Hashem say that to? Moshe. And said, Moshe, you go tell Pinchas. You know what Moshe should have said to Hashem? I should tell Pinchas. You tell him. You know what Hashem says? If I tell him, it may not come true. But if you tell him, it will be forever. And that's why Pinchas became a Leo. That's what the Rambam says. That means Hashem wanted to give Pinchas a bracha. Hashem said to Moshe, here's the bracha, go tell him. That's crazy. You tell him, you're right here, go tell him. No. If I tell him, it may happen. It may not happen. If you tell him, it's 100%. So that's what the Rambam says. There's something called the Chizkuni. The Chizkuni is very fascinating. Listen to this Chizkuni. Chizkuni was one of the Bali HaTosfos. Listen to this very carefully. You have, on Pesach, your daughter with her husband and the 3 kids, and you have your son and his wife, your daughter-in-law, and their 3 kids. Her kids are wild. They're dumping out toys, they're running around the house, they're making a mess, and she's not controlling them. What do? It's your house, it's Pesach, your daughter's there with her family, and your daughter-in-law is there with her family. What do?
Nothing.
We have a nothing.
The daughter.
So the Chizkuni says, in Yiddish we say this. You know what you do? You call your daughter in. And you say to your daughter, you know, there's a lot of toys all over the place. We raised you, to make sure that they don't dump out the toys and you change diapers and dirty diapers go right away into the garbage can. Could you please, be very careful to keep that up? The daughter-in-law hears this. And the daughter-in-law says, whoa. If the parents are so strict on their daughter, how much more they're going to be on me? I better shave up. And all of a sudden, she starts cleaning up the toys and throws the dirty diapers in the garbage can.
Wow.
That's what the Chizkuni says. In Yiddish, we say that. The daughter understands that my parents are really not angry at me. I'm their daughter. After all, I'm perfect. I'm their daughter. You hear that, Sarah? I'm their daughter. I got to be perfect. Right? So they're not going to be. So Sarah, if your mom and dad scream at you when Ben is over there with his wife, you know what? It has nothing to do with you. You can walk away to your room and say, they're not mad at me. I'm perfect. They're just trying to give a message. Okay? That's what the Chizkuni says. So Sarah laughs and Avram laughs.
But
The
you can't say
Chizkuni-
nothing to daughter-in-law.
What?
You can't say nothing to
Nothing. That's correct. That's the correct answer.
But you should tell your son. Maybe son is going to tell his wife.
You got to be very eggshells. You're walking on eggshells. You got to be very careful. So the Chizkuni says that Hashem was really angry at Avram for laughing, but he didn't want to tell him. He didn't want to embarrass him. So what did he say to him? Why did your wife laugh? So Avram should learn from this that Hashem is angry at my wife for laughing. Hey, I also laughed. Therefore, Hashem must be angry at me. That's what the Chizkuni says. Rabbi Aryeh Levine was a tzaddik of Yerushalayim. His wife had a different answer over here. Very, very different answer. Let's go to the Haftorah. The Haftorah is from Malachim Beis. In the Haftorah, there's a Navi Hashem called Elisha. He was a student of Eliyahu Hanavi. He used to travel all around, and he used to go to a town called Shunam. And he always stayed with a family, a very nice family. The wife of the family, the mother or the wife of the family, she was so nice, she made a special room for him. That if he came in the middle of the night, he had a key, he could go into a special room, they had a table, a chair, candles, a menorah, a bed. She made a room for him in the house. After years of her kindness, he calls her in and he says to her, I want to repay you for your kindness. What can I do for you? Would you like me to speak to the king? Because he had connections with the royalty. And she says, no, I don't need anything from the king. I'm a humble person. I live with myself. I live in my own circle. So Gehazi says, she doesn't have any children. Oh, you don't have any children? Next year, when I come back at this time, you're going to have a son. Now, her first reaction was, please, don't trick me. Don't mislead me. What should have her reaction have been? What should she have said to Elisha's words?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, amen. I should have 10 children. But she didn't. Okay. She has a child a year later. The child is out in the field, and he says to his father, Roshi, my head, I'm dizzy, like sunstroke. So the father says, take the boy to his mother. He needs his mother. By the time he comes to the mother, she's holding him, trying to cool down his temperature, I guess, and he dies in her hands. This is next week's Haftarah. You'll read it when they read the Haftarah. This week's Haftarah. What does she do? She carries the baby, who's now dead, and puts it on the bed of Elisha's bed. Then she sends a message to her husband. I need a horse. I need a buggy. I have to go, I guess, near Haifa to the Ish Elohim, to the Navi. So the husband says, why are you going? It's not Rosh Chodesh, it's not Shabbos, it's not a holiday. What did she say? I gotta go. She doesn't say, our kid is dead. Doesn't say anything. I gotta go. As she's coming, Elisha sees from a distance, Elisha sees her coming, and Elisha says, isn't that the Shunamite woman? Gehazi, go greet her. Ask her, how's she doing? How's her baby? Gehazi goes. And he says, how are you doing? How's your baby? She says, everything is fine. Doesn't say a word. She doesn't say that my baby is dead, nothing. Comes to Elisha. The minute she sees him, she falls and grabs his feet. And Gehazi wants to pull her away. You don't grab the rabbi, we don't do that. And Elisha says, leave her alone. She has a bitter heart. Hashem has blinded me, now I see. And she said to him, I never asked you for a child. I told you don't give me a child. I told you don't fool me. Now you give me a child so the child should die? That's even more cruel. So Elisha says to Gehazi, take my stick, go straight to the child. Don't talk to anyone. If anyone says, hi Gehazi, don't answer back. Don't talk to anyone. And put the stick on the child. And he doesn't talk, and Gehazi doesn't listen. The Gemara says that as he was going, people say, hey Gehazi, how you doing? I'm great. Where you going? I'm going to the Shunam house. Her kid just dropped dead. I'm going to put the stick on him. It ain't going to work. And because of that, Gehazi, eventually he loses his share to Olam Haba. He's going to be out. Because he had such a sarcastic attitude. But the stick didn't work. And Elisha comes home, and Elisha was a Kohen. And Elisha goes into the room and sees the kid on the bed, and he davens to Hashem, and he warms the baby up, and he does L'chiyat Mesim and brings the child back to life. So Rebbetzin Ari Levine said as follows. She said something very interesting. By Avraham, it says, and he laughed in his heart. He never said anything with his mouth. Because we have a rule, al tiftach peh lasatan. You don't open your mouth and say, why? By Sarah, it says she laughed b'kirba lemor, and then she said it out loud. She laughed out loud. She says, to herself maybe she was talking, she says, really? I'm going to have a baby? My husband's old, I'm old, and how could it happen? She spoke it. And the minute she verbalized it, Hashem said, what do you do? If you don't believe, keep it inside. Keep it to yourself. But the minute you open your mouth and you say something, that's it. You jinx it. And the minute you jinx it, there's nothing to talk about. And he says, how did Sarah die? Sarah died because she heard from the Malach HaMavet that what happened? Your son died. Exactly what she said. Oh, I don't believe it can't happen. Hashem says, really? That's going to cost you your life. Why did this Shunamite woman's son die? To prove a point? Because when he said, you're going to have a son, what did she say? Don't fool me. Oh, you think I'm fooling? Okay, so you obviously don't want a kid bad enough. You don't want a kid bad enough? The kid died. You have to be so careful Al tiftach pe lasota. I remember that someone once asked Reb Zelek Epstein a very interesting question, and this will end. It's already 9:30, believe it or not. Time flies when you're having fun. Did you think it was 9:30 already?
No.
If I would have asked you what time it was, what would you have told me?
Wonderful, Chiddush, wonderful.
9:26.
Okay? Listen to what someone asked Reb Zelek Epstein. The guy was suffering from cancer, pancreatic
Four
cancer.
more minutes.
Pancreatic cancer. And he said, I don't know what to do. On one hand, I want to tell people, because if I tell people, they'll daven for me, and I could use their tefillot. On the other hand, if I tell people I have a critical illness where I could die from, it's al tiftach pe lasot. The people are going to start saying, did you hear he has pancreatic cancer? Most people with pancreatic cancer don't survive. And then if Hashem saves me, it'll be like a miracle. Hashem doesn't perform open miracles. So I don't know what to do. Should I tell people or should I not tell people? If I don't tell people, then Hashem can save me with a miracle and no one will know. Hashem does secret miracles, hidden miracles. Doesn't do open miracles. What should I do? So Reb Zelek said to him, tell 10 people. That's it. This way you'll have 10 people davening for you, but it's still considered a secret. And therefore Hashem can do a miracle and not everybody will know about it. That means he found a compromise, a balance. Don't tell everybody how sick you are, because al tiftach pe lasoto. But you can tell 10 people you trust, so they should daven for you. That was the balance.
Then they're going to tell you.
And tell them not to tell anyone. You have to choose 10 people that will daven for you without telling anyone else. That was the balance. Very difficult to strike that balance. But that's what the Rebbetzin, Aryeh Levine's wife, said. He said the difference between Avram laughing and Sarah laughing is Avram laughed, but he kept it quiet inside. Sarah did it outside. She verbalized it. She said it. When someone gives you a bracha, even if it sounds crazy, maybe you don't believe the bracha, that's okay. But don't say, it can't happen. Say, Amen, thank you very much. Then you can do whatever you want afterwards. But you don't verbalize that the bracha can't happen. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.